Greetings, everybody. I'm Larry Williams, the Director of CARMA, the Consortium for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis in the Rawls College of Business at Texas Tech University. Today is March the 12th, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of our CARMA Quick Chat, where we take advantage of the opportunity to catch up with people who are going to be contributing to CARMA in the near future. And today it's a real treat to have the chance to catch up with Ann Smith. Ann will be giving a CARMA webcast lecture a month from now on April the 12th on the analysis of process data. And if you're not familiar with CARMA, we have different types of events that we do. We're very excited. We have our short course registration open for a set of short courses we're doing in June, of which Ann will be one of our instructors. But we're celebrating today the fact that she's going to be giving a CARMA webcast lecture. And these are live lectures that get distributed to CARMA institutional members. We have about 150 universities worldwide that participate in our program. And then we put those recordings in our video library where all institutional members can enjoy them on demand. So Ann is a regular and longtime contributor to CARMA, which makes it extra special to have this chat. And so, Ann, good to see you again. Appreciate you taking the time during your spring break to catch up with us. So when I chat with people, I'm oftentimes interested in kind of turning points earlier in their careers that shape where they end up. So was there a specific point or time in your training where your qualitative interest emerged? You're a longtime contributor to the qualitative methods community through your scholarship and through your teaching. And so was there a point where that happened?
Yes, I can. True confessions, I never had a qualitative methods class, had pieces of it in other methods classes that I took, but never took a full qualitative methods class. So a turning point for me was that when I began to think about a dissertation topic, I wanted it to be phenomenon driven. I had worked for a fiber optic cable company, and one of our major customers were the Baby Bells. And the Baby Bells were the 7 companies created from the original AT&T. And they were almost like a natural experiment in that they were all started in 1984 to be very similar, to be the same size, billions of dollars from a standing start. And I was very intrigued by how they went international. And so that was the beginning for me. Now, I do want to backtrack. When I defended my dissertation about this phenomenon, I was going to do panel data and look at transactions. And it was very obvious through the conversation that that was not going to work because this was very much a nonlinear type process. And they said, you really need to get close to the phenomenon. So there I was not very excited about it, but plunged in, and I'm very glad because I think doing a dissertation, I may not have ever come back to do qualitative methods, but that sort of set a trajectory for my career. I'm kind of thrown into the deep end. I learned different philosophical orientation, different ways to analyze the data, and then how to write for publication, which is a whole nother area. But I always point people to, if you want to know about me and my journey in qualitative methods, I point them to my Journal of Management Inquiry 2002, From Process Data to Publication. And it documents my 10 years of going from, here's the phenomenon I'm going to study, here's the data I collected in the field, and then trying to move it through what's the theoretical impact and then move it to publication. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I never have had, I'm very self-taught. There are a bunch of us out there that are self-taught that came out of US business schools, but I was very interested in the phenomenon. So that led me into a different trajectory in my career, one that I'm delighted that I took.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it would necessarily be that much different for those on the quantitative side in terms of, just the quality of the overall methods training that's offered in doctoral programs has grown so dramatically
Yes,
in the time that you and I have been
yes.
involved in the profession. Well, since that time, you've had a lot of experiences, both in terms of doing your own qualitative research and teaching about qualitative methods, in your editorial work related to qualitative methods. I know sometimes it can be hard to look back and reflect and compare, but how do you think you're different now as a qualitative scholar as a result of those experiences that you've had?
I don't think I became very confident in my capabilities until about 10 years ago. And every day I'm still learning. I never think that I've arrived yet. But I will say there were some voices that have been very important and turning points that have been very important for me. I think I've always surrounded myself with really great people I've met them along my journey. So one was Karen Golden Biddle. I was about to give up. I mean, I was probably 5 years into my career, and I remember receiving a review from Karen Golden Biddle, who was my associate editor for a JMI about my main dissertation findings. And she says, "You've got to find your voice," and was very encouraging to me. And I think that I look back on that conversation, if you would, in writing, was a real important point in my journey. I think people have trusted me that I'm going to do the work to get things done, such as at ORM when I was asked to be the associate editor. I was like, really? But you're just going to put your shoulder into it and you work through it, but you learn so much through that process, the whole reviews and such, and being co-editor with a bunch of great people with research methodology and strategy and management series. That was important as well. But I will point out probably the most meaningful experiences to date that have shaped and sort of show where I am now. One was the 2022 special issue in ORM, Organizational Research Methods, with Vikram Baku and Tina Kohler. Tina taking the lead on that. But I think the papers in that special issue, as well as our empirically grounded editorial, that was such a great experience. Learned so much. And I tell every new student they should read the whole issue. It's that important. And the second one, the second point is that really kind of is a turning point, was a paper that just got accepted at ORM a couple of months ago. And it's with 5 other scholars. It's led by Hans Hansen, Sarah Elias, Anna Stevenson, Marcos Barros, and Ben Alexander. And we all met at the Academy probably, I don't know, 2018, it was a while ago. And from that PDW panel, it was about interviewing, we got into a discussion that continued online, and we're like, we really should write a paper about this. So over COVID, every other week, we would meet on this paper, went through several revisions, and it was all about qualitative research. Where is it? Where's the weirdness that we assume that we have for qualitative research? And the title ended up being about the unsilencing of context researchers and non-interview data. But we learned so much from that, and from the conversations that we had, and from each other, bringing different philosophical views, different theoretical areas. And it was a really meaningful process. And I feel like I have lifelong colleagues from that. But it was one of those papers that just had a lot to say, and was a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, well, it's nice that you mentioned Karen Golden Biddle, another longtime Karma contributor, and we're very excited that she will be teaching one of our short courses this summer as well.
Yes,
So as you got involved more in the qualitative community, you started doing more teaching in qualitative methods. And so do you think there are particular challenges in teaching qualitative methods? And if so, what are they and how do you respond to those?
Well, first of all, I'll say I'm very excited that we're going to be face to face again in Detroit. I think that's really going to be wonderful. For me, it's very challenging to teach that over Zoom, although it's doable, but it's much, much more satisfying when you're in the room with someone and you can see the light bulbs going off. I'm teaching my second qualitative methods class at UT this semester, and I'm teaching first years who have been mostly exposed to more quantitative, positive, post-positive philosophical approaches is typical in a lot of US business schools. So I think opening their minds to different ways and first of all, telling them that qualitative research is empirical research. Just have to state that. But again, I think it's convincing them of the power and the impact that qualitative research can have. And it really doesn't take long for me to sort of win them over. You expose them to Dondi Plowman and this paper from 2007 AMJ. She's now the chancellor at the University of Tennessee. And they love hearing the backstory. They love hearing and reading the paper because they can walk around with the theoretical contribution in your head through the rich story of the Mission Church. There are many others like this, Pratt and Amway, Dutton and Dukerich, and the Port Authority. They're just rich studies that they begin to realize that these can have incredible impact. I do think the other challenges appreciate that there's no magical alpha value that is going to descend onto the messiness of field research. It is a lot of hard work. And so one thing that I'm doing this semester that I think is important is to deal with live data or deal with data, not just to talk not just to talk in platitudes or conceptually about qualitative data analysis, but to actually do it. And we have a huge at the UT library, we have a large trove of interviews of people that lived through the Gatlinburg fire in 2016, led to death and tremendous amount of destruction of property. And we're reading about that. We're even going to hike the scene to truly experience what it's like. So, and that way we're reading, we're listening, then we'll start coding. So it's going to be really hands-on. And I think that gives them a taste of qualitative research, both the excitement as well as the hard work, because it's both. But I think that they begin to see that it can make a tremendous impact of, and they're enjoying it. I mean, I'm loving it too. It's fun. I've never done this before. I always bring live data into Karma courses, but to see this over, 17 weeks is even more exciting for me as an instructor.
Yeah. Well, we are very excited about returning in-person courses. Summer 2019, I think pre-COVID was the last time we did. And we were thankful that we had the infrastructure in place where we could pretty easily switch to online. And we know for many people, the economics are favorable and it's maybe more family friendly. But from our point of view, we had all those years before that where there's just the richness of the experience where they get to spend basically close to 3 solid days with people like you. And interacting with the scholars and building relationships and networking. So it wasn't that hard of a decision to try to jump back in. So we're very excited, and there's so many exciting things going on in the methods community. And so one of those is the recent announcement with AMJ of their accepting submissions that may not have been accepted before in terms of those with the research methods focus. And you're part of the great editorial team that's in charge of that. Can you tell people a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's very exciting and was very intimidating when they asked me as well. But Mark Gruber and Paul Blasey are leading this effort, and I think it's a great one. I can remember, I still refer to many of these papers in AMR that were methods papers that, and always kind of, like the Anne Langley 99 about process data analysis, Steen Grodel and all, and approaching categorization while you're undertaking qualitative data. And the Edmondson and McManus, those were 3 key, I consider, methods papers in AMR. So I never was quite clear why AMJ was not in this arena. But I'm glad they are now. And I think I would point most people to go and read the editorial that just came out in the February issue of AMJ, in which Mark and Paul talk about what the objectives are. And, it's clearly to advance theory. And it's like, what methodological or theoretical problem are you trying to solve? Making it very broad and relevant, and then also clarifying research practices. I'm going to read one thing from the editorial that when I was reviewing it for today, I think it's important they say, well, what's it going to be different about AMJ than other outlets? And I think it's the degree to which authors make a compelling case for advancing new theory, their ability to make broad relevance and span boundaries while also including the combination of other factors. And they went on to say, we will be particularly welcoming to articles that have clear links to macro and qualitative methods implications, as they tend to be underrepresented. So I look forward to seeing the papers. I think it's sort of a Mintzbergian emergent process, and that we have these boundaries. We know what we're looking for in general, as stated in the editorial, but it's also going to be probably shaped by the types of manuscripts we get as well. I think it's going to be very exciting. And also I would point out, and Karma is sponsoring this as well, the virtual PDW with AMJ just on research methods is May 3rd. And we're looking forward to that and having more conversation and more clarity.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great development for the community, and what a great team with Paul, Mo, you, and Travis leading the way on it. Well, Ann, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're chatting with you today kind of as a preview for your webcast. So maybe we should close by having you just talk a little bit about the webcast you'll be giving for Karma on Friday, April the 12th at noon Eastern time. What you're going to be talking about?
I'm talking about qualitative data analysis, and I've titled the talk, The Joy of Coding. Now, you may not think that coding and joy go together, but hopefully I can make a case for that. But I really appreciate this late in my career. I really am focused on trying to, whenever I get a chance, to share knowledge that I have. And I really appreciate this opportunity. I think coding is one of those words that, for new qualitative researchers, does strike fear into, makes people anxious. And so instead of having scholars cherry pick through and find quotes, I talk about diving deeply into, immerse yourself in the experience, and that experience can be joyful. And it was not for me starting out. I was one of those very reluctant, plunging in types. But again, and it's kind of positioned, the talk is positioned between the 2022 Locke, Feldman, and Golden Biddle. It's a wonderful paper about coding within the process of data analysis, and also between a paper I wrote with Paula O'Kane and Mike Lerman about 11 techniques using software to interrogate your quality. It's in between there. And I think it's a needed little piece to add to uncover the mystery of the coding, to try to take some of the mystery out. Take inspiration from Bob Ross, who many people in the US may remember him. He had a show on public television called The Joy of Coding, The Joy of Painting. And one thing I've used in some of my Karma training is getting people to think in terms of paintbrushes, in terms of painting their data. And it's resonated. So I was like, I should probably write this up and talk about it, because I think it resonates with so many people at different levels, whether you're teaching students or you've got to plunge back into your data or you're new to qualitative research. It gives you a way to think about it in a way that's approachable and doable. So that's really my my focus here is to share that knowledge and think in terms of how do you get involved in coding. And if I can just help a few people out there just getting back in there and into their data, as well as approaching their data for their first time, that I feel like I would have contributed back and given back. So I really appreciate the opportunity of this webinar.
Well, we are very excited to be hosting that webcast lecture. Again, that's on April the 12th at noon Eastern Time. You can find more information about Karma, our short courses, Ann's webcast, and everything else we've got going on the Karma webcast. And you've contributed in so many ways over the years, and it's great that you will be continuing to contribute not only with this webcast, but with your short course. So stay safe until then, and we'll see you on April the 12th.
Thank you.
Thank you.